Good morning. My name's Tamara and I'm going to talk to you today about some revolutionary ways of marketing food. When I was putting this talk together, I read a statistic that said most people are more afraid of public speaking than they are of dying. However, I can tell you from personal experience that standing here today is infinitely better than thinking you're about to die. This is a picture of me 7 years ago on the front page of the local newspaper. I just left St James's Hospital after spending 6 months in there fighting for my life. Early that year, in June 2007, just before our first Open Farm Sunday, I started feeling really ill. And it turned out I suffered sudden liver failure, thought to have been caused by some antibiotics I took. There was no alternative but to have an emergency liver transplant, which luckily saved my life. However, due to a shortage of donors and all the complications, I was in a coma for 6 weeks, was given 10% chance of survival, and had to relearn how to walk and talk again. It was certainly character building. I eventually made it back to work, and with renewed enthusiasm for getting things done. One of the things I'd always thought was you should live like you could die tomorrow and farm as if you'll live forever. Most people only get to have regrets on their deathbed, sadly by which time it is too late. I've been given a second chance. One of the first things I did was start Open Farm School Days. This is where up to 1,000 children visit our farm in the week before Open Farm Sunday. It's now been rolled out nationwide by Leaf. I believe passionately that the next generation need to be informed consumers. Another thing I thought about doing and hadn't done due to fear of it not working was some allotments on the farm. I started these early 2012 and they've been an unprecedented success, much better than I expected. There are now 70 plots let and around 60 people on the waiting list. I'd also toyed with the idea of a Nuffield Scholarship. The main farm which I run is arable. I want to look at something new to me and wonder how I could build on the success of these allotments. I read an article in the newspaper about a project in Athens called Gene Agritis, Be a Farmer, essentially farmed allotments, whereby members of the public rented quarter an acre off a farmer and specified what vegetables they wanted growing over the following year. The farmers received the payment up front at the start of the year, and the customers received a regular supply of fresh vegetables. The vegetables were 60% of the supermarket price, and the farmers were making a better return too, with little risk. This was a form of community-supported agriculture. It's not going. Or CSA for short. Around the world, there are many different models of CSA. In America, there's thousands of CSAs. An example would be a single farm having 1,500 members. That is, every week, 1,500 family-sized veg boxes going out. We're given a turnover well in excess of £1 million, so we're not merely talking about micro businesses. Another example of a CSA is a pig club. This is whereby members of the public pay 50% of the meat price up front. The farmer then buys all his inputs and the members pay the remaining 50% when the pig is butchered. If members drop out at this point, the farmer can still send the pig to market and make a decent return. This ensures better quality meat at a lower price and, I believe, higher welfare. Another example, there can be many different models of CSAs, from honey to fish. For fish, whatever is caught, within reason, the members get a share of. This means fresher, cheaper fish, but dramatically less waste. Issues with the present supply system are varied, but include modern supply chains are very wasteful, both in terms of packaging waste and food waste. We live in a finite planet. We cannot continue the way we are at present. Economies of scale. As farmers, we have fallen for the idea we need to work harder, cut costs and farm more land. I do it. But who's profiting? Taste and nutrient value have fallen due to a push on shelf life and visual quality. Highly processed food is poor for human health, yet pushed by the supermarkets. It has fantastic shelf life and profit margins, unlike fresh produce. And there's an obesity and diabetes epidemic, which is linked to people being disengaged with their food. Britain is falling out of love with the supermarkets. This must be an opportunity. I'm going to look at 6 examples from the various different countries I've visited. I love Finland and met a couple of engaging PhD students who are members of this CSA. What was striking here was how fashionable it was. These were not tree huggers, but stylish, forward-thinking young adults. In comparison, I visited the UK CSA conference, and in spite of being struck by how slim and healthy everybody there looked, it was noticed the majority could be called hippies. And much as CSAs need to keep alternative, they need to also be engaged people, and appearing too radical or even extremist could alienate potential members and limit the potential. I've visited many CSAs in the US, but one alternative I think worth mentioning is Good Eggs. This is a website which is basically an online farmers market. The website was incredibly well designed and technically advanced. Orders go from the website to the farmer or producer, who deliver them in the following day to the distribution centre. From here, Good Eggs delivers them on to the customer. The produce from farmers could alter what they had available and quantities daily. Despite some added cost, I think this keeps many of the benefits of CSAs, such as a majority of sale price going back to the farmer or producer and much reduced waste due to no stuff on shelves. I see this as having the greatest potential for local food in the future due to the exponential growth of online sales. This is Adam. Adam was the sort of visit I hoped and expected to find for my Nuffield travels. Through a Twitter account, whilst at university, he was marketing all the family farm's land via meat boxes. The meat was selling for less than the supermarket, but the farm profits were double what they were before. He was charming and helpful, a fantastic farming ambassador who had recently run @Sweden on Twitter for a week. Usually run by public figures, this has further publicised what he was doing. He put the success of marketing via social media down to the sort of people who use Twitter, such as people working in media and advertising who valued what he was doing and producing. Japan has many CSAs. They're called Teikeis, a word meaning cooperation. They evolved independently in Japan with the Western model. I went to Fukushima to see how the farmers were coping with the aftermath of the nuclear power plant disaster in 2011. Here, a Teikei I visited found their sales had doubled by selling to Tokyo, where the older generation actively became members of these Teikeis to support the farmers who were struggling with radiation issues. The food was scanned to make sure it was safe, but there must have still been some perceived risk, and yet they supported the farmers nonetheless. I talked earlier about Gene Agritis in Athens. By the time I visited, it had moved on from the CSA to renting this redundant car sales room outside Athens. There was a farmer's market, which was twice weekly, a cafe, and a farm shop which took a percentage cut of any profit. They also had moved, part of this new business was an online marketplace. As with Good Eggs, this had attracted significant outside investment. This showed how a business could move forward from the CSA model to providing a more diverse shopping experience. They called this new business Farmers Republic, playing on power of the people, independence from the faceless corporate big businesses who many Athenians linked with a disastrous economic downturn. My final visit was to Holland to meet Merlin Albering, a Nuffield scholar from 2012, whose study was entitled, "What is the future of local and small-scale agriculture?" She concluded that local was taking over organic in importance, which I would agree with. She had a shop in a nearby town selling beautiful gardening equipment, such as handmade spade for heavy land, which my allotment holders would appreciate. And she'd started CSA early this year. She had a 5-acre plot, was using the shop as a collection point for veg boxes, and had a full initial membership in her first year. The best thing about this visit was it was my final Nuffield trip, and it showed that yes, with the right people, CSAs are viable and can be a way for new entrants into agriculture without largely unaffordable investment. Going forwards, this year for Open Farm School Days, instead of borrowing some piglets, we bought some and started our own pig club. We sold all the meat through social media and the allotment members. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll be planting a community orchard. This is where members of the public get to hire a tree for a year, or 2 trees, and get eating apples, apple juice, and hopefully cider. Over the long term, we hope to start a vegetable CSA in the field next to the allotments, and hopefully a meat box too. I would like to thank the Yorkshire Agricultural Society for sponsoring me, and my family for putting up with me. However, the biggest thanks must go to the amazing person who signed the organ donor register and donated me the gift of life. Because without them, I would not be stood here talking to you today. Every day, 3 people like me die in the UK waiting for an organ donation which doesn't come. If you remember nothing else about my talk, please consider signing the organ donor register. Thank you for listening.